After 15 years of marriage, my wife suddenly screamed, "Get out!" right in front of her daughter. In seconds, a lie turned me into a stranger in my own home. I walked into the storm with nothing but the clothes on my back, my mind spinning, my heart crushed, still not knowing what I'd done wrong. I ended up at a gas station, calling my wife again and again, but all I got was silence. Meanwhile, the rumors spread fast. Neighbors stared at me like I was a monster. When I tried to go back for my papers, the locks were changed, and a stranger stood in my yard like he belonged there. That's when I realized this wasn't an argument. It was a plan. And the lie? It came from my stepdaughter, designed to erase me, to hide something far darker. But 3 hours later, the sheriff knocked, and they froze. If you want the full story and the shocking twist, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because you won't believe what happens next. I got home a little after 7, still wearing my steel-toe boots, still smelling like the warehouse. The kind of tired that sinks into your shoulders and stays there. I set my lunch bag on the counter and glanced at the mail, mortgage statement, insurance, a flyer from the community center. All the usual reminders of what I kept running for. Simone was at the stove, stirring something without looking at me. Jada sat at the table with her phone propped up, laughing at a screen like nothing in the world could touch her. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice steady. "How was your day?" Simone gave a small shrug. Jada didn't even lift her eyes. I washed my hands, pulled out plates, started doing what I always did, filling the quiet with small movements so nobody had to talk about the tension hanging under our roof. For years, I told myself that was love, that was leadership. You keep things smooth. We ate. The clink of forks, the hum of the refrigerator, Jada's nails tapping on her phone. Halfway through, she reached across the table and snatched my car keys like they were hers. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Out," she said, already sliding off her chair. "Maya's picking me up. We're going to Buckhead." The casualness hit me wrong. Not the place, not the plans, the entitlement. "You're not taking my car without asking," I said, calm but firm. Jada stopped and stared at me like I'd insulted her. "You're not my dad," she said, loud enough for it to sting. "You don't get to tell me what to do." A beat of silence followed. Simone kept chewing like she didn't hear it. "Simone," I said, turning to her. "You heard that." She finally looked up, eyes flat. "Don't start, Malcolm. She's a teenager. Let it go." My jaw tightened. I swallowed the words I wanted to say. 15 years ago, I married Simone believing I was building a family. I'd already failed once. My son was growing up without me in the same house, and guilt had made me generous in ways that weren't always smart. I overcompensated, paid too much, forgave too fast. Jada walked toward the hallway with my keys dangling from her fingers. "Put them back," I said. She smiled, small, satisfied, then disappeared into her room and slammed the door. That sound did something inside me, not rage, something colder, like a warning. I pushed my chair back, went outside to the backyard, and stood under the porch, letting the damp air hit my face. I counted to 10, then 20, trying to decide which mattered more tonight, peace or dignity. When I stepped back inside, Simone was already in the living room. Jada stood behind her, arms crossed, eyes dry. Simone's voice exploded so sharp it didn't even sound like her. "Get out!" I stopped moving. "What?" I said. "What are you talking about?" She pointed at me like I was a stranger in her house. "You know exactly what you did." Jada told me, "You're not staying here another minute." My mouth went dry. Jada's gaze didn't flinch. She didn't look scared. She looked certain. "Simone," I said, trying to keep my voice from breaking. "Say what she told you. Say it out loud." Simone's chest rose and fell fast, but her eyes stayed hard. "Don't you dare make this worse," she said. "Get your things and go." Rain started hitting the windows harder, like the sky had chosen a side. I stood there, boots still on, hands open, trying to understand how a home could turn into a sentence. I didn't grab a bag. I didn't argue. I just backed away, walked to the door, and stepped outside. The rain soaked through my shirt in seconds. The porch light stayed on behind me, warm and steady, like it belonged to someone else now. Rain hammered the windshield as I drove with no real destination. I kept both hands on the wheel, not because the roads were slick, but because I needed something solid to hold on to. The neighborhood disappeared behind me, then the familiar streets, then even the parts of Decatur I could drive blindfolded. A quick trip sign popped up near the highway, and I turned in without thinking. I parked far from the entrance, killed the engine, and sat there with my clothes clinging to my skin. Water dripped off my sleeves onto the console. My phone buzzed once, nothing from Simone, just some app notification I didn't care about. I dialed her anyway. 1 ring, 2, 3, voicemail. I hung up, waited 10 seconds, called again. Same result. On the third try, I didn't even let it ring all the way. I stared at the screen like if I looked hard enough she'd pick up out of shame. No luck. The inside of the car started to smell like wet fabric and defeat. I got out and jogged to the store, shoulders hunched, head down. A guy in a hoodie nodded at me near the door. I nodded back like a normal person, like I wasn't freshly evicted from my own life. The air inside was warm. I grabbed a coffee, black, and stood by the counter while the cashier rang me up. "You all right, man?" It wasn't concern, just a habit. But it landed. "Yeah," I said, "just caught in the weather." He slid the cup toward me. I took it with both hands. The heat didn't fix anything, but it kept my fingers from shaking. I found a seat by the window and checked the time. 8:42. The numbers looked wrong, like I'd skipped several hours without permission. I opened my phone again, scrolled without meaning to, and that's when I saw it. A post from Mrs. Landry 2 houses down. No names, no details, just, "Crazy stuff happening tonight. Please pray for families." My throat tightened. The kind of prayer she meant wasn't for me, it was for them. People always pray for the ones who look hurt, not the ones who get blamed. I refreshed. Another neighbor commented with a shocked face. Someone else wrote, "I knew something was off." My stomach turned. I wasn't a husband who got kicked out. I was a story now, a warning. A man folks would whisper about while watering their lawns. I closed the app and stared at my hands around the cup. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It felt organized, like everyone had agreed on a version of me without asking. A new notification popped up. This one a text. Tanya Brooks. "Where are you? Don't go back home alone." I read it twice. Tanya wasn't family. She wasn't blood. She wasn't part of Simone's world. And somehow, she saw enough to know something didn't add up. My thumbs hovered over the screen, then I typed back. "I'm at Quick Trip off Memorial. I don't know what's happening." The message sent, and I looked up at the clock again, watching the seconds click forward, waiting for something, anything, to make sense. My phone buzzed again before Tanya could reply. Not Simone. Just another notification. Another reminder that life keeps moving, even when yours gets flipped upside down. I tossed the empty coffee cup, wiped my hands on my jeans, and walked back to the car. Sitting still was making everything worse. I needed my wallet, my passport, the folder with my work certificates, the deed paperwork Simone always said she kept somewhere safe. If this turned into something legal, I couldn't be out here with nothing but a wet shirt and a drained phone. The drive back felt shorter than it should have. I pulled into the neighborhood slow, keeping my headlights low like I didn't belong there anymore. A couple porch lights were still on. Somebody's TV flickered through a window. Normal life, same as always, except my name was probably floating through it like smoke. I parked down the street instead of in my driveway. Old habit from my job. When something doesn't feel right, you don't walk straight into it. You watch first. The rain had eased into a steady drizzle. I got out, kept the hood of my jacket up, and moved along the sidewalk toward my house. The closer I got, the more my chest tightened. Not from fear, from disbelief. 15 years. That's how long it takes to build routines. To learn how someone likes their coffee. To know which cabinet the vitamins are in. And in one night, I'd been erased. I reached the front porch and stopped. The deadbolt looked new. At first, I thought it was the water in my eyes. I blinked hard and leaned closer. Fresh metal. A different brand. The screws were clean, like somebody had installed it that afternoon. I tried my key anyway, out of pure stubbornness. It didn't even slide in. My hand froze on the doorknob. I looked up at the little doorbell camera mounted above the frame. The lens pointed slightly toward the driveway now, not the walkway. Someone had twisted it, just enough that it wouldn't catch a clear shot of whoever stood right here. A slow, cold realization crept through me. This wasn't Simone snapping. This wasn't a mother protecting her child in a moment of panic. This was preparation. A car engine idled somewhere near the garage. I didn't hear it until I listened for it. I stepped off the porch and angled toward the side of the house, staying in the shadow of the hedges. Then I saw him. A white SUV sat near the garage door, clean, like it didn't belong on our street. A man leaned against it with his arms crossed, scrolling his phone. Mid-30s maybe, button-down shirt under a rain jacket, hair cut tight. He looked up when he noticed movement and gave me a quick glance, not startled, not confused, just measuring, like he'd been expecting me. We stared at each other for 2 seconds. That was all it took. His face didn't change. No question. No, "Can I help you?" No, "Who are you?" Just calm. That calm told me everything. I didn't walk toward him. I didn't say a word. I stepped back, pulled out my phone, and opened the camera like I was documenting a safety violation at work. My thumb steadied itself automatically. I filmed the SUV, the plates, the man, the garage door. He didn't flinch. He actually smiled, faint and annoyed, like I was being inconvenient. I lowered the phone, kept my voice even. "Who are you?" He glanced past me toward the house. "You don't need to be here," he said. His tone wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. "You should go." A laugh almost came out, but it died in my throat. Because the worst part wasn't the disrespect. It was how practiced it felt. Like he'd said that line before. Like someone had coached him. I backed away without turning my back on him. The drizzle soaked my shoes again. My heart didn't race. It sank, heavy and slow. In the car, I sat with my hands on the steering wheel and played the video back once, making sure the plate number was clear. Then I saved it to a folder and texted it to Tanya without adding a single explanation. My eyes drifted to the house. The curtains were drawn. No movement, no sound. Just that SUV and that man standing like he owned a piece of my life. A thought landed, sharp and unwanted. Maybe I wasn't getting thrown out because of what I did. Maybe I was getting removed because I was in the way. I started the engine, pulled off the curb, and drove toward the main road, already listing in my head everything Simone had ever insisted on handling for us. Bills, refinancing offers, paperwork I never saw, while my phone screen stayed dark except for the message thread waiting to fill with answers. Tanya told me to meet her in the Home Depot parking lot off Lawrenceville Highway. It was early, barely past 9, and I hadn't slept. I dozed in the driver's seat for maybe 20 minutes at a time, waking up with my neck stiff and my mouth dry. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Simone's voice again. "Get out," like she'd carved it into the inside of my head. Tanya pulled up in a gray Camry and parked beside me. She got out with a paper bag and 2 coffees. No hug, no pity face. Just a quick look that said she'd already decided I wasn't the kind of man who needed saving, only direction. "Drink," she said, handing me a cup. I took it, nodded once. She leaned against her car, arms folded. "What did Jada say you did?" The question hit me harder than any insult Evan could have thrown. My throat tightened. For a second I considered dodging it, saying something vague. But Tanya didn't ask like she was curious. She asked like she needed facts. She told Simone I touched her, I said. The words tasted like rust. Tanya didn't flinch. She didn't gasp. She didn't look away. She stayed steady, like someone who'd sat across from too many people in HR offices and courtrooms to get knocked over by shock. "Sexually?" I nodded once. My hands clenched around the coffee lid until it squeaked. That's what she said. That's why Simone threw me out like I was... "Don't finish that," Tanya cut in. Her voice stayed low. "Listen to me. You do not go back inside that house. You don't knock. You don't plead. You don't argue with them. Because if that lie is out there, one wrong move makes you look guilty." I stared at her, trying to keep my breathing even. "She's 19, I said. She knows what she's saying." "Of course she does," Tanya replied, "and Simone knows what she's doing with it." I didn't want to believe that part. I could accept Jada being cruel. She'd been sharp for years. But Simone? Simone had watched me build this home. She'd watched me carry the bills, cover her mom's medical co-pays, send grocery money when her cousin was short. She knew my son. She'd held my face in her hands and told me I was safe with her. And now she was letting a lie turn me into a criminal. Tanya took out her phone. First thing, you start a paper trail. Every text, every call, every email, screenshot everything. Second, you stop talking on the phone with them. Everything written. Third, we get you a lawyer. Not next week. Today. I swallowed. Tanya, I don't have... You have a job, she said. You have a reputation. That's what they're coming for. A lawyer costs money. Losing your name costs your whole life. That sentence stayed in the air. I felt it settle in my chest, heavy and true. My phone chimed. An email. I opened it without thinking. Bank of America. Subject line, your loan application status. My stomach dropped. I clicked it. There it was, an application number, an amount that made my face go numb, and my name typed clean across the top like I'd signed it with pride. I didn't do this, I said. Tanya stepped closer, reading over my shoulder. When did this come through? This morning. Her jaw tightened. She didn't look surprised. That scared me more than the email. Another buzz. A text from my supervisor. Malcolm, HR got a call. Someone concerned about you. Come by my office before shift. My hands went cold. Not because I was guilty, because I knew how people hear things like that. They don't ask for context. They start protecting themselves. Tanya watched my face change. They're moving fast, she said quietly. This is coordinated. I stared down at the screen, my mind trying to hold two realities at once. In one, I was still the man who fixed leaky faucets and paid the mortgage on time. In the other, I was an accused predator with a loan in his name and a rumor crawling through his workplace. The second reality was winning. Tanya reached out and took my phone from my hand, gentle but firm. We're not panicking. We're not reacting like they want. We're going to do this step by step. She scrolled, opened my messages, started a new one. First, you text Simone one line. Nothing emotional. Just, I'm getting legal counsel. Do not contact my employer again. Then we call the bank. Then we call a lawyer. She held the phone out. My thumb hovered over the screen. The words sat there, plain and sharp, like a door shutting. I looked past Tanya at the store entrance, people loading lumber and paint like it was just another Tuesday, and I typed the message anyway. The Bank of America branch downtown had that quiet, controlled feel. People in line pretending they weren't nervous. Employees smiling like they'd seen every kind of disaster and learned not to react. Tanya walked in beside me like she belonged there. I followed her lead, shoulders squared, face calm, even though my stomach kept flipping. We checked in at the front desk. Tanya gave my name and a short explanation. Potential identity fraud, she said. We need to review documentation tied to Mr. Hayes. The word fraud sounded too big for my life, like something that happened to other people. The woman at the desk didn't blink. She nodded, typed, then directed us to a small office. A banker named Mr. Patel sat across from me. Early 30s, neat tie, polite eyes. Mr. Hayes, I'm sorry you're dealing with this, he said. Let's start with the basics. You received an email about a loan application? I slid my phone across the desk with the email open. He looked, then clicked around on his computer. His fingers moved fast, practiced. He printed a few pages and set them in front of me. This is the refinance application. It's attached to your household address and your social. It's been in process for several weeks. Several weeks. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice even. Show me the signature. Mr. Patel pulled up a scanned document, turned the monitor slightly. My name sat at the bottom in ink. At first glance, it looked right. The same slant, the same loop in the M, the same quick tail on the S. But it wasn't mine. I'd signed thousands of forms in my life, job contracts, safety reports, my son's school paperwork. My hand had habits, the way I pressed hard on the first letter, the way I lifted at the end. This signature was smooth in a way mine wasn't, like someone had practiced on a blank page until it looked convincing. I didn't sign this, I said. Tanya leaned in, eyes sharp. Do you have security footage tied to the signing? In person or remote? Mr. Patel hesitated. Some of it is electronic verification, but there's also a notary record for one portion. My head snapped up. Notary? When? He clicked again, then pointed. 3 Tuesdays ago. Notarized in Gwinnett County. It lists a third party as an advisor, someone who helped coordinate. He paused, then looked at me like he wasn't sure if he should say it. The name is Evan Rourke. My throat went tight. The same man in my driveway, the one who told me I didn't need to be there. I felt the pieces begin to line up, one after another, and the picture they made was ugly. Tanya didn't let me sit with it too long. Mr. Patel, we want a full account history, everything connected to this application, emails, IP logs, any call recordings, and we need it documented that Mr. Hayes disputes this signature. Mr. Patel nodded slowly. I can open a fraud case today. That triggers an internal investigation. It may also require a police report. We'll do that, Tanya said. And we'll need copies of everything you can legally provide. He started printing again. My phone vibrated on the desk. A text from Simone. I can't believe you're doing this. After everything, you're trying to destroy us. If you come back here, I will call the police. Don't test me. I stared at the screen. The message wasn't fear. It was control, wrapped in victim language. The same tactic my ex-wife used years ago, right before she emptied our joint account and told everyone I was unstable. Back then, I begged for peace. I tried to fix it. I swallowed the humiliation because I thought a family was worth any price. That old wound opened, but it didn't bleed the same way this time. It hardened. Tanya saw the text and exhaled through her nose. There it is, she said. She's building a narrative. She wants you to react. I didn't answer Simone. I saved the message, took a screenshot, then forwarded it to Tanya. Mr. Patel slid the printed stack toward me. Sign here to authorize release of documents to your legal representative, he said. If you have an attorney. Tanya met my eyes. We're getting one today. I picked up the pen. My hands steadied. I signed my name the way I always did. Firm, a little heavy on the first letter, no flourish. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the neighborhood app, scrolling until I found the post from Mrs. Landry again. If rumors could move this fast, proof needed to move faster. I tapped message and started typing to the neighbor who'd mentioned security cameras, asking for any footage from last night, keeping my words short, careful, and clean. Tanya found me a motel near Stone Mountain Park that didn't ask questions. The room smelled faintly like bleach and old carpet, but it had a bed, a desk, and a door that locked. That was enough for the moment. I left my bag on the chair and sat in the driver's seat outside for a while. Engine off, phone plugged into the charger. My hands moved like they belonged to someone else. Screenshots went into folders. Videos got labeled with dates. Every call log, every unread message, every email from the bank, saved twice. Once on my phone, once in a cloud drive Tanya set up for me. At work, I'd spent years teaching people one simple rule. If it isn't documented, it didn't happen. I never thought I'd be applying that rule to my marriage. I built a timeline the way I would for an incident report. 7:12 p.m. Walked in the door. 7:38 p.m. Jada took my keys. 8:03 p.m. Simone screamed for me to leave. 9:27 p.m. Unknown male in driveway, white SUV, plate recorded. Looking at it in bullet points made it feel less like chaos and more like a pattern. Patterns could be proven. Proven meant survivable. My phone buzzed with another text from Simone. I didn't open it right away. I waited, counted to 5, then read it like I was reviewing someone else's case. You're making this worse. Jada is scared. You always do this. You always twist things. No apology, no question, just blame wrapped in soft words. I captured it, forwarded it to Tanya, then shut the screen off. The next morning, Tanya met me outside a small law office downtown. The sign on the door said, Family Law and Estate. Inside, the waiting room had faded magazines and a water cooler that hummed too loud. A receptionist handed me a clipboard like this was just another appointment. The attorney's name was Carol Dunning, late 50s, gray hair pulled back tight, eyes that didn't waste motion. She shook my hand, firm grip, then sat behind her desk and listened while Tanya summarized everything in plain language. Carol didn't interrupt. She let me speak when I needed to. When I finished, she leaned back slightly, tapped her pen once, and said the sentence that changed how I looked at the whole thing. If they've built a story, you don't fight it with feelings. You fight it with paperwork. Her voice was calm, almost bored, like she'd said it 1,000 times. They want you emotional. They want you to show up angry, knocking on doors, yelling in the street. That gives them what they need. You stay clean, you stay quiet, you stay documented. She slid a form across the desk. This is a petition to preserve marital assets. This is an emergency motion to prevent the refinance from closing. And this is a request for records tied to the loan application. We file today. I read the top line, then signed. My name looked strange on legal paper, but it felt right in my hand. Tanya took pictures of every page and emailed copies to herself and to Carol's assistant. Carol glanced at my phone. "No more direct contact with your wife unless it's written," she said. "And even then, keep it short. You don't argue, you don't explain. You let the court do the talking." Outside, Tanya walked me to my car. "You did good," she said. Not warm, not dramatic, just true. Back at the motel, I ate a sandwich from the corner store and went through the neighborhood camera messages. One guy wrote back. He said he'd check his system. Another asked what happened. I didn't answer that. Not yet. Around midnight, I heard tires roll slow through the parking lot. A white sedan eased past my window, paused near my door, then kept moving. I watched from behind the curtain without touching it, staying still. The car circled once more, then left. A minute later, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging if you want peace." No name, no emoji, no explanation, just that. My pulse didn't spike. It settled. Like my body had decided fear was a luxury I couldn't afford. I took a screenshot, saved it, then forwarded it to Carol and Tanya with one line. New development. Then I opened my notes again and added a new entry to the timeline, the same way I would at work. Quiet, exact, and ready for whatever came next. The next morning, my supervisor texted me an address instead of a time. HR office, come straight here. No smiley face, no, you good? Just a command. I drove to the distribution center on autopilot. The place looked the same. Forklifts moving, trailers lined up, guys in safety vests joking near the dock doors. That normal life hit me like a slap. I wanted to grab someone by the shoulders and say, "Do you have any idea what's happening to me?" Instead, I parked, took one deep breath, and walked inside. HR sat in a glass office near the front. Two people waited for me, Monica from Human Resources, and a man I'd never met who introduced himself as corporate compliance. He didn't offer his hand. He didn't need to. His posture said this wasn't a friendly check-in. "Malcolm," Monica began, voice careful. "We received a call last night and an email this morning, an anonymous complaint." I sat down without asking. "About what?" Monica glanced at the man beside her, then back at me. "About alleged inappropriate behavior, outside of work." My stomach dropped anyway. Even when you expect the punch, it still lands. "Who filed it?" "It's anonymous," Monica said. "But it mentioned your home. It mentioned a young woman." The word young woman made my jaw lock. Jada wasn't a child. She wasn't confused. She knew exactly what she was setting on fire. The compliance guy finally spoke. "We're not accusing you of anything at this time, but we have to document that we addressed the report. You'll be placed on temporary administrative leave while we review." My hands stayed flat on the table. I kept my voice neutral, like I was discussing inventory counts. "Do you have anything in writing?" Monica slid a printed email across to me. The complaint was short, vague, loaded with ugly hints. No dates, no specifics, just enough to stain. I pulled out my phone and took a picture of it. Monica frowned, then remembered she couldn't stop me. "That's fine," she said quickly. "Just keep it confidential." Confidential. Like my name wasn't already a rumor. I nodded once, stood up, and walked out without arguing. The warehouse floor felt louder than usual. Or maybe my head was quieter. Either way, I moved through it like a ghost in my own workplace. In my truck, I sat with my hands on the wheel and stared at the steering column until my eyes burned. I thought about my son, Marcus, 22 now, in college up in Tennessee. I pictured his face when he was 8, running to the door when I came to pick him up on weekends, like I was a hero. I'd missed too many birthdays, too many school events. I'd tried to make up for it by being dependable everywhere else. Pay the bills, Be steady. Don't cause drama. Don't let the past repeat itself. And now, because I wanted peace, a lie was dragging my name through every room I'd ever earned. My phone rang. Tanya. You okay? She asked. HR put me on leave, I said. She swore under her breath, then steadied herself. Listen, Carol called me. Simone filed for a protective order this morning. My chest tightened. She what? Temporary protective order. She's trying to make it official that you're a threat. If she gets that, she can keep you away from the house legally. She can claim you're harassing her. She can lock you out for months. I leaned my head back against the seat. So this is the plan. Yeah, Tanya said. And we're not giving it to her. My hands moved before my thoughts finished. I opened my email, pulled up the documents from the bank, the screenshots of Simone's texts, the video of Evan in my driveway, the anonymous threat from the motel. Tell Carol I'm coming now, I said. Carol's office was 40 minutes away. I drove there without music, without calling anyone, just the sound of tires on pavement and my own breathing. Carol met me at the door like she'd been waiting. She didn't ask how I felt. She didn't offer water. She pointed at a chair and slid papers toward me. We respond today, she said. We file your evidence. We request a hearing. You do not speak to Simone. You do not speak to Jada. You let the record speak. I signed what she put in front of me. Name, date, initials. Over and over. When I finished, Carol gathered the stack, clipped it, and handed it to her assistant. File it, she said. Then she turned back to me. Now we wait for them to make their next move. My phone buzzed in my pocket again. Another message from an unknown number, and my thumb hovered over it as I sat there, still wearing my work boots, trying to keep my life from being rewritten by people who decided I didn't deserve it. My phone buzzed again before I could open the unknown message. This time it was a notification from the neighborhood app. Someone had replied to the message I sent the night before. Hey Malcolm, I don't know what's going on, but my camera caught a lot. Sending you a clip now. The sender was a guy named Chris who lived across the street, the kind of neighbor who waved but never stayed long enough to talk. I opened the file with my hands already steady. Whatever I saw, I needed it more than I feared it. The video loaded. Timestamp, 7:46 p.m. Our driveway came into view from an angle that showed the street and the side of my porch. The sound was muffled, but the picture was clear enough. A white SUV rolled up and parked. Evan stepped out, moved with the confidence of someone who'd been there before, and walked toward the house. Then he waited. Not for me, not for some random reason. He waited like he was on schedule. At 7:59, Simone opened the door and stepped outside with a thick folder in her hands. Not a grocery bag, not keys, paperwork. She handed it to Evan, and he flipped through it right there under the porch, like he was checking a list. Simone spoke fast, pointing once toward the back of the house, then toward the street. Evan nodded. They both went inside. I watched it twice, then a third time, pausing on the folder, zooming in on Evan's face, on Simone's body language. It wasn't panic. It wasn't confusion. It was coordination. Tanya called while the video was still open. You got it, didn't you? She asked. A neighbor sent footage, I said. Evan was there before she threw me out. Simone handed him a folder. Tanya let out a slow breath. Good. That's your first clean crack in their story. I didn't feel good. Not relief, not victory, just clarity. The kind that makes you stop asking why and start asking how. There's more, Tanya added. I got a screenshot from one of Jada's friends. How? A girl named Kiara. She's scared. She said Jada's been bragging. My stomach turned, but I didn't interrupt. Tanya forwarded the image, and it popped onto my screen a second later. It was a group chat, Jada's name at the top, a message underneath. Relax. All I had to do was tell my mom that story and he disappeared. Easy. A couple laughing emojis. Another friend typed, Girl, you wild. Then Jada again. He ain't coming back. My mom handled it. I stared at the words until they blurred. That wasn't a traumatized kid. That was a young woman enjoying the power of a lie. My thumb moved on its own. Screenshot, save, forward to Carol. Tanya spoke again, voice firm. That's not just messy family drama anymore. That's a false allegation, and it connects to the fraud. I leaned back in the motel chair, eyes on the bank documents spread across the bed, the notary record, the refinance timeline. Evan's name, Simone's threats, the protective order filing. It all fit together now, tighter than I wanted it to. They didn't need me as a husband. They needed me as a signature. And once they got what they wanted, they needed me gone. Carol called about 20 minutes later. "We're escalating," she said. "You have evidence of coordination and an admission of false reporting. We're scheduling a formal fraud report with the bank, and we're contacting the sheriff's office. Today." "Do I need to show up?" I asked. "You will," she said, "but not alone. Tanya can come. I'll provide a statement. You keep your language simple. Facts only. No emotion." I looked down at the screenshot of Jada's message again. Then at the driveway video paused on Simone handing Evan that folder. My fingers started sorting papers into a stack. Bank printouts on top. Video file ready to share. Screenshots behind it. Carol's filings in a separate folder. I slid everything into a manila envelope Tanya had brought me earlier. The same kind I used at work when an investigation turned serious. The motel phone rang once at the front desk. Someone asking if I needed extra towels. I told them no, thanked them, then kept packing. When I finished, I texted Tanya. "Ready. Where do I meet you?" Her reply came quick. "Downtown. Parking deck across from the sheriff's office. 10 minutes." I grabbed my keys and stepped outside, locking the motel door behind me with the envelope tucked under my arm. Already going over in my head the exact words I'd use when someone in uniform finally asked me to explain what my own wife had tried to do with my name. Tanya met me in the parking deck across from the sheriff's office, already holding a folder like she'd been doing this her whole life. Carol wasn't there in person, but she'd sent a written statement and a checklist. The deputy who agreed to ride with us introduced himself as Deputy Miller. Mid-40s, calm voice, no attitude. He read the summary, asked a few questions, then nodded like he'd seen families turn into crime scenes before. "We're not here to argue domestic issues," he said. "We're here to follow up on suspected fraud and verify identities." That was all I needed to hear. We drove back to Decatur in Tanya's car so I wouldn't show up alone. My envelope sat on my lap. I kept my eyes on the road, not the houses, not the familiar turns, not the church sign that always said something about grace. Grace was for people who told the truth. We parked at the curb. Deputy Miller stepped out first. Tanya stayed close to my left side. I wasn't shaking, but I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. Not fear, pressure, like a valve about to release. Miller walked up and knocked. Once, twice. A few seconds passed. Then the door opened, and Simone appeared in a soft robe like she'd been crying for hours. Her hair looked carefully messy. Her eyes looked carefully swollen. She held the door frame with one hand, as if she needed it to stand. "Oh my God," she whispered, staring past the deputy at me. "He's here." Deputy Miller kept his tone neutral. "Ma'am, I'm Deputy Miller with DeKalb County. We need to ask you a few questions regarding a financial matter tied to this address." Simone blinked fast, like she didn't understand, like she wasn't expecting law enforcement unless it came with a protective order. "Financial?" she repeated. I don't know what you mean." Miller nodded toward the driveway. "Is Evan Rourke here right now?" The name hit her like a slap. Her face changed. Not much, just a small stiffening around the mouth, the way someone freezes when they hear a word they weren't supposed to hear. The hand on the doorframe tightened. Behind her, Jada appeared in the hallway. No robe, no tears, just a tank top and a look that tried to be bored. Then her eyes flicked to the deputy, and something drained out of her face. Simone recovered fast, switching gears. "Officer, she's scared because She glanced at me like I was poison. "He's been threatening us. I filed for a protective order." Deputy Miller didn't react. "Ma'am, I'm not here for that today. I'm here because there's a fraud report connected to Mr. Malcolm Hayes' identity and this property. We need to verify who initiated refinance paperwork and who signed certain documents." Simone's breath caught. She glanced back toward the kitchen like someone might overhear. Then she forced herself into the doorway, blocking the view inside. "This is harassment," she said. "He's trying to intimidate me. He's trying to make me look like..." Tanya stepped forward slightly. "Like what, Simone? Like someone who used his name to secure a loan?" Simone snapped her eyes to Tanya, anger flashing through the fake softness. "You need to stay out of this." I didn't move. I didn't step toward the door. I didn't raise my voice. I reached into my envelope and pulled out the bank paperwork, the notary record, and the still frame from Chris's camera showing Simone handing Evan the folder. Deputy Miller accepted the documents and scanned them quickly. Jada's stare fixed on the screenshot from the group chat sitting on top of the stack. Her throat bobbed once. Simone noticed too. Her eyes darted, just for a second, to the same page. Then she tried to laugh, thin and sharp. "This is ridiculous. Anyone can fake screenshots. This is his temper. This is what he does. He twists things and then plays innocent." Miller lifted his gaze. "Ma'am, did you authorize Mr. Rourke to act as a financial advisor on your refinance application?" Simone's mouth opened, closed, opened again. We spoke to a consultant. It's normal. Malcolm knows." "No, he doesn't," Tanya said. "That's why he's here. That's why the bank opened a fraud case. That's why you changed the locks before he even left." Simone's eyes flashed, and she pivoted hard. "Malcolm, why are you doing this? After 15 years, after everything I did for you, you want to ruin my daughter's life because you can't control your anger?" She aimed it at my pride, my manhood, the same place people like her always aimed. Because if they could make me react, they could make me look like the monster they needed. I looked at her, then at Jada, and kept my voice flat. "I don't need you to believe me. I just need the paperwork to tell the truth." Silence followed, heavy, uncomfortable. Deputy Miller cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we need to come inside and verify identification, and we may need to speak with Mr. Rourke if he's involved. If he's not here, we'll be contacting him. Also, I'm advising you right now not to alter any documents connected to this case." Simone's hands dropped from the doorframe like the wood had burned her. Jada stood behind her, eyes wide, not saying a word. And for the first time since that night, I watched them both realize they weren't in control of the story anymore. Deputy Miller didn't arrest anybody that day. Real life doesn't always give you that clean ending people expect. What he did give me was something better, an official record, a report number, a statement on file that said I wasn't the one hiding. 2 days later, Bank of America froze the refinance application. Mr. Patel called me directly. "Mr. Hayes, the fraud case is active. No funds will be released until the investigation is complete." I thanked him, hung up, and forwarded the voicemail to Carol. That was my life now. Less talking, more forwarding. Carol moved fast. She filed an emergency motion to preserve marital assets, and she sent formal notice to Simone that all communication had to go through legal counsel. The protective order Simone tried to push through didn't disappear overnight, but it didn't land the way she wanted either. The judge scheduled a hearing. Evidence got submitted. Her story stopped being a private weapon and started becoming a public claim she had to prove. When you lie to friends, you can cry your way out of it. When you lie on paper, you have to sign your name. Simone texted me once after she got the notice. "You're really doing this. You're choosing revenge over family." I didn't respond. Carol had already warned me. Any message I sent could be used. Even a simple "leave me alone" could be twisted into harassment. So I did what I'd learned to do in the motel room. I saved it. I documented it. Then I put the phone face down. Evan disappeared from the driveway after that day, but his name didn't. The sheriff's office contacted him. The bank requested documentation from him. Carol's office subpoenaed records tied to his consulting business. A man like that doesn't like attention. He likes shadows. The moment the spotlight hits, he runs. Simone didn't have that option. She still had to walk around our neighborhood. She still had to show her face at church, at the grocery store, at the nail salon where everybody talks. People there might not understand fraud cases or loan applications, but they understand one thing very well: who plays victim too easily. I didn't post online. I didn't defend myself in the neighborhood group. I didn't message the Landrys or the Chris's or anyone else. I let the legal process do what it does best: quietly close doors. 3 weeks after Deputy Miller knocked, HR called me back in. Monica had the same careful voice, but her posture had shifted. "We completed our review," she said. "We couldn't substantiate the complaint. You'll return to work effective Monday. Back pay will be processed." The compliance guy from before wasn't there this time. Only Monica. She slid a form across the table for me to sign and paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I nodded once. That was all I could give her. She didn't cause this, but she also didn't stop it. Most people don't. On the way out, one of the guys from the dock slapped my shoulder. "Good to see you back, Malcolm." I didn't correct him when he said it like I'd been on vacation. I just kept walking. The divorce filing happened a month after that. Carol handled most of it. I showed up for signatures and meetings, always on time, always calm. The house became a line on a spreadsheet. The marriage became a case file. People kept asking if I was okay. I stopped answering that question with words. I answered it by being consistent, showing up, paying my own bills, sleeping in a room where nobody could scream and rewrite my identity. Simone tried one more time to pull me into an emotional fight. She called from an unknown number. I recognized her breath before she spoke. "Malcolm, please," she said. "This is getting out of hand. Jada is miserable. I'm miserable. You made your point." I could hear her trying to soften the edges, trying to return to that old dynamic where I took responsibility for her discomfort. "This isn't a point," I said. My voice stayed low. "It's a boundary." "So you're just going to throw 15 years away?" I exhaled slowly. "You threw it away when you decided a lie was easier than truth." She went quiet. Not because she understood, because she didn't have a line prepared for a man who wouldn't bend. When I hung up, I blocked the number. Then I sent Carol a note that Simone had contacted me, and Carol added it to the file without drama. The court hearing came and went. Simone's temporary order didn't hold up under scrutiny. The judge didn't call her names, didn't shame her. That's not the job. He simply looked at the contradictions, the lack of dates, the lack of evidence, then denied the extension. The gavel came down. Paper moved. A lie lost its power in a room where it had to stand on its own. Jada didn't get arrested for that group chat. She didn't go to jail. Again, real life. But she did face consequences that mattered in the world she cared about. Her mother's friends stopped inviting her places. A few parents didn't want their kids around her. The story she tried to control turned into a label she couldn't shake. And Simone lost the thing she'd always depended on: credibility. Once people saw her as capable of that kind of lie, every tear after that looked suspicious. Every complaint sounded rehearsed. The community didn't cheer for me. They didn't throw me a parade. They simply stopped treating me like a threat. That was enough. I met my son Marcus at a small diner near the airport, the kind of place where the waitress calls everyone baby without meaning it. He looked older than the last time I'd seen him, taller, more set in his face. That hurt in a quiet way. Time doesn't ask permission. We ate burgers and talked about school first, his classes, his roommates, the internship he wanted. I let him fill the space until he finally looked at me and asked the question he'd been holding. "Dad, what happened?" I didn't give him the whole story, not because I was hiding it, because he didn't need every detail to learn the lesson. "Some people will use your kindness like a tool," I said. "They'll take it and call it love. Then they'll punish you for expecting respect." He stared at his fries, then nodded slowly. "You okay now?" I met his eyes. "I'm clear," I said. "That's the best way I can explain it." After we hugged goodbye, I drove out to Stone Mountain Park and parked near the lake. I didn't go there for peace. I went there because it was neutral ground. No memories in the walls, no voices behind a locked door. Just space. I sat on a bench with my phone in my pocket and my hands resting on my knees. For the first time in weeks, nothing demanded an answer. No call from Simone, no threats, no texts, no new rumors, just silence. It didn't feel like loneliness, it felt like ownership. I stayed there until the air cooled and the park started to empty. Then I stood up, brushed my palms on my jeans, and walked back to my car with my keys in my hand and my name intact.